Next up, all eyes on USC as Pro Day takes over campus. We break down the winners and losers of former Trojan players.
And USC's women's basketball's inaugural Big Ten tournament run ends in disappointment.
And the men's squad nudges itself into the Big Ten tournament. Basketball analyst Casey Kausliner gives his tournament picks. Welcome back to Sports Scene. I'm Nolan Ezett.
I'm Liam Irvin.
And I'm Chris Ajose Nixon.
Under stormy skies, USC Pro Day pressed on. Trojans showcased their skills despite the downpour, with 10 players participating in front of NFL scouts, coaches, and executives. NFL Combine invites Jalen Smith, Jonah Monheim, and Woody Marks also attended. Let's hear how their experiences stacked up.
Yeah, again, I think every team's a little different, especially what they see or what they'll tell me or what they like and not like. But at the end of the day, I think I'm really good at, my athletic ability, my football intelligence, my instincts, my awareness, and then, my command and my leadership overall. So, that's what I think, and, each team's a little different.
Nah, we just want to get drafted, man. That's the main thing in this process. You just want to find a hole. You'll never know your next steps after this. So, it's a dream and honor to, go through this process. So now you just want to, sit back and, wait to see what's next. God has plans for you next.
The list of players who participated included cornerbacks Greedy Vance, John Humphrey, and Jacoby Covington, linebackers Eason Mascarenas Arnold and Mason Cobb, safety Akili Arnold, and receiver Kyle Ford. Annenberg Media's Hayes Flanagan was there today. Let's see what she had to say about the day.
I'm here live at Allison Felix Field, where USC just wrapped up their 2025 Pro Day. It was a gloomy and dark morning with rain coming sideways, but all the Trojans came ready to compete. Over 15 Trojans were at USC's Pro Day today, with only 3 expected to be drafted in the 2025 NFL Draft. Those 3 are center Jonah Monheim, running back Woody Marks, and cornerback Jalen Smith. Regardless of expected to being drafted, all of the Trojans started off right behind me, running the 40-yard dash for all of the NFL coaches and scouts. Then after running the 40, they all got into their position-specific drills, showing off their individual and position-specific talents on the field. Well, it will be interesting which Trojans turn into Projans on April 24th at the NFL Draft. But back to you guys in the studio for more.
The 3 Trojans mentioned by Hayes who were invited to the NFL Combine added to draft stock in today's USC Pro Day. At the Combine, Marks ran a 4.54 official time with good catching drills, while Smith dazzled the 4th fastest speed among quarterbacks at 4.45. Monheim was a non-participant, but as seen, has been in talks with NFL coaches. And how about that? Joined alongside Hayes Flanagan now with fewer players every year showcasing their skills in the NFL Combine. Hayes, why was today's Pro Day important, and who did you see coming out as a winner?
Well, the one guy who did go to the Combine who this was important for was Jonah Monheim. He actually got to participate in some of those drills as a center, showing off his blocking skills, showing off his speed off the snap, which was different from what he got to do at the Combine. He mostly did a lot of talking at the Combine instead of actual physical movement. So that was really important for him. Other than that, it was all about the projected undrafted Trojans, which include, a Greedy Vance Jr., a Kyle Ford. This was space for them to show off their talent. For Kyle Ford, it's running routes. And, for Greedy, it's how fast are you laterally. So that was huge for them. But other than that, it was nothing compared to last year's Pro Day with, all of the coaches and scouts there to see Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I think that it's an interesting point you bring up with the guys not participating so much in the Combine. For a guy like a Woody Marks, the Combine, it can show you something, but I think it's a good way for them to get out here to the Pro Day, and they can kind of show off some of the drills that they like doing. You can customize it a little bit, and I think it kind of shows you're going to see the Combine maybe used a little bit more for the interviews, like you mentioned, because you can get every NFL team in the same building. It might be easier for them to use that for the interviews and then show off their skills at the Pro Day.
I think something to think about with this Combine, especially USC specifically, 6 guys in the secondary all going through drills. When you think about next season as a projection for USC's defense, those are holes that they might have to fill if these guys are picked up by NFL squads.
Well, Hayes, you mentioned some of those projected undrafted players. Mason Cobb and Kyle Ford are the two that stand out to me the most. Played a lot of games for the Trojans. Kyle Ford had his best game to end the season, the Las Vegas Bowl, 6 catches, 59 yards, and a touchdown. How did they specifically perform at this pro day? Did it look like something that could propel them to, possibly a last round draft selection, or not quite?
For someone like Kyle, I mean, this definitely helped. He seemed in great spirits. We did a media scrum after they all did their drills, and he was in a great mood. He was happy about how he performed. I didn't see any dropped balls in the drills that he was doing. So I think he was very happy. Do I think that that's going to get him, into the draft? No, but do I think that gives him an opening, for an undrafted free agent kind of prospect? Yes. And so I think that was huge for someone like him. Do I think that? Yeah. I don't really think that that's going to put him inside, draft eligible, but.
Hayes, thank you. With USC's Pro Day in the books, now it's all eyes on the draft. But before we get there, another big tournament is heating up. No one has more on March Madness.
The Big Ten women's basketball tournament just wrapped up. USC fell short after receiving 2 byes. USC started its Big Ten tournament run with an 84-79 victory over Indiana. Next up was an 82-70 victory over Michigan, in which Kiki Iriafen led her squad with 25 points. The Big Ten championship was a matchup of the favorites. 1-seeded USC faced a 2-seeded UCLA team that they already beat twice this year. Lauren Betts, though, came in clutch for the Bruins and helped her team top Juju Watkins' Trojans 72-67.
We've done a lot of celebrating this year, and so when it's not our turn and someone else has the confetti or what have you, we're always going to do it the right way and take our pain and our disappointment and channel that into getting better. I thought we had one bad half of basketball in the second half.
Now, USC won both its regular season battles against UCLA. The Trojans beat their crosstown rival 71-60, propelled by Juju Watkins' 38-point performance first at the Galen Center. But a month later, USC still took down UCLA on the blue and gold's court 80-67. This time, though, the Trojans came up short when it mattered most. Big Ten championship game, up by 10 at half, on pace to go 3-0 against the Bruins, yet USC scored just 22 points in the second half and only made 8 of 36 shots. The Trojans missed 13 shots in the final quarter. Now, USC ends the year 2-1 against UCLA. So I want to ask you guys, what did you see in the Trojans' last game against UCLA, and what are they going to need to change heading into this March Madness?
Yeah, you mentioned the shooting struggles. They ended the game shooting 34% from the field after posting 55.6% in the first quarter. So obviously that drop-off happens. Sometimes you miss shots. But I think the struggle was really seen in Juju Watkins. Obviously her play, her pace is, how the Trojans end up playing. But I think in this game, what you saw usually throughout the season was when Watkins was struggling a little, she can find Iriafen. Throughout this game, Lauren Betts completely shut down Iriafen. A month's low 10 points on the game. And I think defense on Iriafen later down the tournament in the line could be a sign for teams to step up on her specifically rather than honing in on Juju Watkins.
For me, I think the biggest thing was they just ran out of gas. We talked about that second half number, 8 for 36. That's a really rough number, playing their third game in 3 days. And I think maybe a little underrated piece of this game is that UCLA blew out Ohio State the day before, so they got to rest their starters in the fourth quarter, and USC did not have that luxury. Obviously, UCLA earned that, and I think that is one of the main reasons they struggled. With Juju going 9 for 28, Kiki struggling as well. This team also doesn't quite have a reliable third shot creator that they can go to. There's play finishers, there's good shooters, but not quite a shot creator, so when those two are really struggling, it gets tough for them, and I think that's another thing they're going to have to look at and hopefully improve on, either finding a way to get one of those two going when the transition stuff isn't there, or finding somebody else that you can go to a little bit for some shot creation.
Well, they may not have a third best shot creator, but I would say Rhea Marshall, she's a veteran on this USC team. She's a girl that Gottlieb is going to rely on. Obviously, defensively is something a strong point for her, but she should be a reliable shooter. She had 2 points. You can't be doing that in the Big Ten championship game if you've been on this squad for a little bit now. Either way, though, USC still is in contention to receive a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Selection Sunday is March 16th.
Staying with the Trojans, they made an exciting announcement on Monday. South Carolina and USC will play each other each of the next 2 years in the regular season. Here's what the head coaches had to say. From Coach Gottlieb, we have so much respect for South Carolina and Coach Staley's program. To be able to battle for the real SC right here at Crypto Arena in LA is truly a special opportunity. And from Coach Staley, I will always choose elevating women's basketball, and that's especially true in scheduling. The reigning champs South Carolina are coming off another SEC title. They played an extremely difficult schedule this season, including out of conference with the most quad 1 games with 19 and wins 16 out of any team in the nation. They'll be a 1 seed heading into the tournament. So 2 of the nation's top programs putting it all on the line for the next 2 years. Coach Staley already alluded to it, and we'll start with you, Liam. How big is this series going to be for the sport of women's college basketball?
I mean, I think it's more huge than you can even put into words. I think one thing specifically is conference-wise, I love what the Big Ten and SEC teams have been doing, specifically in women's basketball out of conference. I think those first couple of games should never be a tune-up for a team. It should be right into action, and that's exactly what this is promoting for the USC women's basketball squad. You talk about 2 historical franchises, USC 2 national championships, 3 women's Final Fours, South Carolina 2 of the last 3 women's national championships to go along with 6 women's Final Four. This is just amazing for the sport.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest problem with college sports as compared to pro is typically most of your opponents are in conference, and those first couple games leading up to it, a lot of times the powerhouses schedule kind of, opponents way worse than them. I love that USC and South Carolina are saying this. Why wait to March Madness to face other conference opponents? Let's do it now, and I think also you got to think about, this is going to happen for 2 years. That's the huge window that USC has with Juju Watkins still here. I mean, the timing is perfect.
Yeah, it's absolutely the right time to schedule it. I think that's the biggest strength of women's college basketball is those players have to stay for 4 years. You get a superstar like Juju in there. We saw them play UConn and Notre Dame this year. Now you get a game against South Carolina. I mean, what could be more exciting than watching that type of basketball? So the first battle for the real USC is going to be November 15th, 2025 at Crypto.com Arena, and the rematch exactly 1 year later at the Bon Secours Wellness Arena in Greenville, South Carolina.
March is here, and the bracket is taking shape. Casey Kasliner has more on the Big Ten tournament with big implications for Madness.
It's anyone's game in March. The Big Ten men's basketball tournament tips off today with 15 programs vying for the title. Welcome to Big Ten Breakdown, where this week, stakes just got higher. From the Pacific to the Atlantic, from Lansing to Iowa City, 15 teams from far and wide meet up in Indianapolis for an elite showdown. Seeds 1 through 4 get byes, and as you can see, USC checks in at 14, just barely squeaking into the bracket. Here's what I see going down in Indy. I have Northwestern and Purdue making sleeper runs with the Boilermakers qualifying for the semifinals. I have seeds 1 and 2 meeting in the championship with Maryland narrowly upsetting Michigan State to win the Big Ten. I don't see USC beating Rutgers after losing to them by double digits last month. The offseason starts today for Eric Musselman. The Big Ten has a lot of talent this year, even on some of the losing teams. I've selected 3 guys to look out for in the tournament, including 2 I believe will face off in the championship game. 6'10" offensive freak Derek Queen has what it takes to lead Maryland to a Big Ten championship. The projected top 10 NBA draft pick is built like a defensive lineman. He's tenacious inside the paint, nearly averages a double-double, and oh yeah, he's only a freshman too. Maryland is my pick to win the Big Ten, and Queen is the biggest reason for that. Not to mention how stacked the Terps starting lineup is. Checkmate, the Queen has got you. Wisconsin's John Tonje is one of the most versatile players in the Big Ten. The Badgers narrowly missed being a top 4 seed in the conference and have to deal with Northwestern first, the team Tonje dropped 27 points against in the regular season. Tonje is so crafty. He's good with and without the ball and can score from really anywhere. He's a 6-year player, so it's his last chance to prove his value to the college world. Michigan State has been touted as one of the deepest teams in the country. 4th-year Spartan Jaden Akins is the leader of the green and white and is a lethal threat off the dribble. While not the best shooter, he's quick and athletic in transition, and he plays much taller than his 6'4" size. 13 points per game usually doesn't make someone a leading scorer on their team, but Michigan's depth backs him up. The Spartan bench scores 35 points per game, the 4th most in the nation. The Big Ten may not have teams like Auburn or Duke, but the conference is still aiming for a successful March Madness year. ESPN projects 10 Big Ten squads making the NCAA tournament, and second most behind the SEC's 13. That'll wrap up this week's Big Ten Breakdown. Back to you guys. Which teams are on your radars?
Thanks, Casey. With the tournament coming up this week, fellas, which teams do you have your eye on?
First of all, I've got my eyes on Illinois. I know that's a little bit of a Cinderella pick, if you will, but I think, first of all, this team's on a 3-game winning streak. They're hot at the right time. More importantly, though, I want to go down to the middle. In the middle of the paint, we got Tomislav Ivisic. He's a 7'1" big man, averaging 12.5 points a game. More importantly, though, 34% from 3, and he's putting up 4.5 of those a game. So this is not a fluky number one bit. I think that guy is scary, and I think Big Ten teams are not going to want to go against him.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that matchup between Maryland and Illinois, if it does happen, will be a big man showdown. I think it's a cop-out, but I got to side with the number 1 seed in the tournament in Michigan State. I mean, they just do everything so well, so smoothly. Casey talked about the bench production. Jaden Akins has been so well all season. 80% from the free throw line, perimeter defense 3rd in the country in opposing three-point field goal percentage. I think that's something that kind of goes slept on in March Madness, especially when teams make a tournament run. It's usually due to their shooting success. So I got to ride with Michigan State. I think the winner of the Michigan State versus Oregon game will win the entire tournament, no matter who wins that one.
And I want to give a shout out to Michigan. They are on a 3-game losing streak, so maybe this is the wrong time to pick them to make a run. But I think it's a perfect time for them to get that double bye. They get a little break, and if they can get going, I like them. You want size. They got 2 7-footers in that starting lineup. I think that's a really intriguing team that can maybe cause people some problems if they can get going. The Big Ten tournament is already underway in Indianapolis, but none of these teams will be in action until tomorrow. Coming up, USC baseball has gone cold after a hot start. We take a look at their week. And men's volleyball had 2 top 6 showdowns with BYU. We'll recap their big matches.
Fushigi!
Fushigi, I don't know what it is, but it's the coolest thing ever, and I can do it.
Hi, I'm Tim Goey, and this is Fushigi. We're gonna show you how to unlock the secrets of Fushigi, the magic gravity ball. No strings, no tricks. Magic? Maybe. An illusion? You decide. You can make Fushigi defy gravity and appear to float in midair with maneuvers like the prayer cross, the enigma, levitation, and so many more. It floats, it levitates, it will confuse the senses with its mind-blowing movements. Young or old, big or small, anyone can Fushigi from the minute they pick up the magic gravity ball. And with a little practice, you can conquer Fushigi.
This is so amusing.
I think it's fabulous.
I get it now.
Everyone loves Fushigi, and you don't have to be a magician. It's relaxing, even therapeutic. Best of all, it's just amazing.
It floats.
It's awesome. Fushigi.
From basic maneuvers to the advanced, even control more than one Fushigi at a time. You can do this. Mystify, amaze, and confuse your friends in just minutes. Now it's your turn to master Fushigi.
Fushigi.
It's sick. It's so much fun. I love it.
It's amazing.
I love it.
USC baseball continues to struggle ever since its huge victory over Vanderbilt, now facing a 6-game losing streak. 3 games on the docket against number 10 Oregon last weekend, 3 more check marks in the L column. Pitching was a problem for the Trojans, giving up 7, 8, and 5 runs in their 3 games against the Ducks. And an 11-6 loss against Cal State Fullerton Tuesday pushes USC to a 9-7 record. USC has another 3-game weekend series this time against another Big Ten opponent, Michigan Wolverines.
Now we'll chip it over to Liam, who is out on the links with an update on golf.
Thanks, Chris. Kudos to Koo. USC's freshman has made her mark on the course, winning Big Ten Women's Golfer of the Week and dubbing her 4th individual title at the Julie Inkster Invitational. Koo tied her career low for 1 pound, posting a 65 or 7 under in the final round to push her into a 3-way tie for the individual title. Her 4 career wins come from the Windy City Collegiate Classic, the Stanford Intercollegiate, the East Lake Cup, and most recently the Julie Inkster Invitational. But Koo isn't just winning, she's breaking records. She earned her 4th Big Ten Player of the Week honor and claimed her 4th individual title, tying the USC record for wins. The freshman is now back on top of the rankings as this win pushed her back into the number 1 spot in the NCAA's scoreboard clipped rankings. Koo will search for title number 5 as she and the Trojans had 5 possible tournaments on the season remaining. Next up, the Battle of the Bell on March 17th, facing off against rival UCLA, who is ranked 25th in the country. Jasmine is dominating over the course, but now let's swing it over to the court, where USC volleyball is making some big moves of their own. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, number 5 USC men's volleyball squared off against number 6 BYU for a pair of matches in Utah last week. On Friday, it took all 5 sets for USC to earn the win. Senior opposite hitter Jack Duker led the way with 23 kills and 9 blocks, as setter Caleb Blanchett tied a career high with 61 assists. Then on Saturday, it was a different story. It was all Trojans. They figured out the Cougars and broke out the brooms for a 3-0 sweep. For the Trojans, 3 more ranked matchups scheduled for this week at the Outrigger Invitational in Honolulu. On Thursday, it's number 19 Penn State. Then on Friday, number 12 Ball State. Finally, they finished the weekend with number 3 Hawaii, the hosts. The sweep of BYU got the Trojans to 13-2 on the year, 4-0 in the MPSF conference. The 2 losses to Irvine still the only 2 blemishes on USC's record. Next, let's go to Frank for some Trojan top plays.
Welcome to Top Plays, where we cover the top 3 plays from your Trojans this week. At 3, we're starting off with an inspirational clip. Clark Slargent passes to senior Harrison Hornery from deep and bang. Hornery's only averaged 2.9 minutes this year, and he drained a 3 in the last 2 minutes of his final home game. You'll love to see it. Trojans went on to beat the Huskies 92-61. At 2, we have Juju Watkins getting shifty. Sizes up Lexus Bargesser, and oh my goodness, where are you going? Get her a map. Juju pulls up for the tough midi. Watkins finished the game with 22 points on the road to beating the Hoosiers 73-66. And finally, our top play of the week, USC's men's volleyball team looking like they're the Bee Gees out there because they're staying alive. All tied up with the number 6 BYU in the 5th set of the match, the Trojans rally with just a couple saves to stay in this game. After this play, USC went on to beat BYU in a close match. Some absolutely stellar plays from the Trojans this week. From basketball to volleyball, USC has been putting on a show. That's all we have for top plays. Back over to you guys at the desk.
Well, it's March 12th, better known as 3-12, which sounds like Terrence's all-time record against Thomas in Trojan of the Week. Let's send it over to them for another round.
That's right, Liam. Another chance for Terrence to try and cut into my massive lead. It's time for Trojan of the Week. I'm Thomas Johnson alongside Terrence Holton. We both chose players from the same sport, but on different courts. Let's go to the beach first with Ashley Pater. The sophomore captain is the only player to win all of her matches this week for beach volleyball, helping USC to a big win over number 5 Stanford to close out the MPSF midseason rumble with the highest point differential of any Trojan against the Cardinal, finishing at plus 11.
Well, that was a bit unfair of Liam and Thomas right there, but for my Trojan of the Week, we head to the Salt Lake State, where Dylan Klein helped men's volleyball in a routing of BYU. Against the number 6 Cougars, Klein led the Trojans in total kills across 2 games, racking up 16 kills in their 5-set thriller in the first match, then 17 in USC's 3-0 sweep the next day. Well, Thomas, I'd like you to go first because I am a little confused by your argument, to be honest. I'll be honest with you. I don't really understand how Ashley Pater is better definitively in the same sport than Dylan Klein.
Well, that's because Ashley Pater, she was the only Trojan to win all of her matches, like I mentioned.
Okay, yeah.
And even in a loss against Cal, she was the only Trojan to win her match. And that is a very good thing. USC played against 14 GCU, 7 Cal, and 5 Stanford. And sure, it was good wins for USC over BYU. But in that first matchup, Klein had, 16 kills. He had 17 total errors between attack errors, service errors, reception errors, and block errors. So he had more errors than he did kills.
He had more errors than kills, and that's a fair point. I just think you need to take into account, the atmosphere of that environment, of what's going on. It's distracting. That is one of the hardest environments in all of volleyball to play in at BYU. That's pretty definitive. Their court, that entire home environment, that's going to get in your head, and I don't disagree with that. I think something that needs to be brought up, which you can't definitively say about Pater, is Klein's defensive ability. In that second game, in that 3-0 sweep, 11 digs.
What do you mean you can't say definitively?
Definitively tell me Ashley Pater's stats. Tell me your stats.
Well, that's hard because they don't track it in beach volleyball, but it's a two-person.
It's harder. That
Terrence, it's a 2-person court. Like, of course she has to play good defense for her team to win.
But we don't know that for sure. That's all speculative.
If her team won.
But did you watch the games?
I watched the film.
But did you watch the whole games? Did you watch the
Did you watch the whole game?
I actually did. We were watching them in the Big Ten tournament when we were, covering USC baseball. We were watching those games.
You watch the entirety of them while you were working? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
So you weren't paying attention to your job?
Yeah, my job is
okay, but let's talk about, so Dylan Klein, going back to his errors. In that first set against BYU, because mind you, the Trojans did lose 2 sets.
They did lose 2.
He had 3 errors in that first set in a 2-point loss. You take away his errors, USC wins that set. So sure, he had a good number of kills, but Jack Duker led the Trojans in kills in that first game. So
he had 3 in the next one. I just think overall in both of those, then he was overall the best player by far. You can maybe argue Caleb Blanchett, phenomenal game assist-wise, but not the best. Overall, not the best. It was easily Dylan Klein.
Okay, you're talking about 3 different players who had great performances. Ashley Pater was the only one to win all of her matches for the Trojans. I'll just put that out there.
Well, unlike my record implied earlier in the show, this one was a little too close to call. But coming up, we're going to be talking about the Dodgers' new manager and how he made history. And the guys break down NFL free agency and some of the biggest signings.
I've replaced your shoelaces with fruit by the foot.
So you did. I replaced your fingers with fruit by the foot.
Bravo. I've replaced your bones with fruit by the foot.
Indeed you have. I replaced your guitar strings with fruit by the foot.
Seems like a step backwards, but alright. I've replaced your DNA with fruit by the foot. That would be end of game, my friend.
Fruit by the foot. Fruit-flavored snack.
Are you guilty of driving while talking on your cell phone?
Hi, Billy Mays here for the Jupiter Jack. The most convenient hands-free device for any cell phone, guaranteed. Plug it into any phone and mount it on the dash. Preset your radio to 99.3 FM and you're ready to go. Jupiter Jack transmits quality sound through the speakers in your car. Instead of hearing music, you hear the other person. No plugs, no wires, no hands. Call now and get the Jupiter Jack for just $40. Order right now and we'll cut the price in half. You'll get the Jupiter Jack for only $19.99. As a bonus, we'll also include the Jupiter Jack phone mount. It mounts easily and adjusts to fit any shape or size phone. Just pay separate shipping and handling. That means you get the Jupiter Jack and the phone mount, a huge value, all for just $19.99.
Have your credit card ready and call 1-800-346-5231. But call now. We're giving away a bonus dashboard mount with all of today's orders. So call 1-800-346-5231. Call now.
Welcome back. Big news in the MLB world, and it's huge right here in LA. Baseball reporter Daniel Palmore has more for us.
24, manager Dave Roberts led the Dodgers to their 8th championship title, and for that he was rewarded with a contract extension. In last year's World Series, the Dodgers knocked off the New York Yankees in 5 games. LA was able to get the job done despite pitcher and DH Shohei Ohtani playing most of the series injured. First baseman Freddie Freeman's dominant play earned him World Series MVP. Roberts and the Dodgers agreed to terms on a 4-year deal worth $32.4 million. The extension keeps Roberts in Los Angeles through 2029 as his current contract was entering its final season this year. In Roberts' 10th season with the Dodgers, he aims to lead the Dodgers to back-to-back titles, something that hasn't been done since the Yankees did it in 2000. But that's all I have for baseball. Back to you guys for some news in NFL free agency.
NFL free agency is officially underway, and some squads are shaking it up. USC's very own Sam Darnold has found a new home in the Seattle Seahawks, and the Chargers signed former Steelers running back Najee Harris to a 1-year deal. Now, Harris isn't the only of the LA signings. The Bolts re-signed linebacker Khalil Mack and cut edge rusher Joey Bosa. In the meantime, the Rams signed star receiver Devontae Adams. Both squads also re-signed several other role players. Now, we've seen quite a few key moves made around the league, so I want to ask you guys, what's been the biggest move for you guys so far?
I think the AFC East has really dominated all of free agency so far. The Patriots have picked up a couple huge wins in Harold Landry III, Milton Williams. And then you talk about probably the biggest signing, in my opinion, for the Buffalo Bills, going out and getting Joey Bosa alongside Larry Ogunjobi, so 2 defensive linemen that are, poised to have a great front for the Buffalo Bills, exactly what they needed coming into this season.
Yeah, the one I like is the one you mentioned already, Devontae Adams going down to the Rams. I think, for one, he's still got it. This guy, in 11 games with the Jets, 78 yards a game. He had 7 touchdowns. Even though he's a little bit older, I think he's still going to be very effective in pairing him opposite Puka Nacua. I mean, with the stuff they like to do with Puka putting him in motion, I think this is going to be a really dangerous offense if they can protect Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I mean, I love, Liam, you mentioned the Patriots. Milton Williams is the guy for me. I love Milton. He had 5 sacks during the regular season for the Eagles' Super Bowl winning team, but more importantly, 2 sacks on Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. He shows up when it matters most, and guess what? He's young. He's a young signing. He's 25 years old. The Patriots are rebuilding, and I think as you see this team get better, Milton Williams is going to be there the entire time.
Yeah.
I don't know if is there anyone else that you guys really are anticipating going to any team? I know there's some signings that we haven't seen yet.
I think I'm interested in seeing how Aaron Rodgers plays out in terms of whether he goes to the Vikings or the Steelers. Also, I heard Russell Wilson visiting Cleveland so far. So, the quarterback play as well, switching up Justin Fields as well to the Jets. Those will all be interesting developments.
Quarterbacks are a huge one. That'll shake up some teams for sure. Now, that's all that we have for you guys on Sports Scene. Come back next week for more madness. I'm Nolan Ezett.
I'm Liam Irvin.
And I'm Chris Ajose Nixon. We'll see you later.